maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe I'm not thinking of something. This could very well be the beginning of the end of my 700-gallon Piranha aquarium. When setting up a new aquarium, especially a planted aquarium, we have that kind of breaking in phase, and how bad that breaking in phase is going to be will largely depend on a tremendous amount of factors. You see, we're going to have a tremendous amount of influx of a lot of things, from lighting, nutrients, the plant load, tank size. All of this has to be taken into consideration because no two tanks will ever be the same. Now, when it comes to this 16-foot long aquarium, massive amount of water, relatively small amount of plants, lots of lighting. I did battle with the type of lighting that I had in CO2, and there was previous issues, and a relatively low bio load. So we did have an influx of some of the Java moss kind of dying off, collecting detritus, the geophagus spitting dirt all over it, and algae kind of took off, but I'm definitely looking and seeing tremendous amount of new growth everywhere. So this tank still needs to find its balance. I've cut back on the number and hours of lighting in this tank, so we should see a die-off of the algae. I'll increase water changes and maybe even consider dosing the tank and or hooking the CO2 back up. Basically, my canister ran out and I never connected it again. Upgraded the lights and or simply added more onto it and decreased the lighting period from 10 hours to 8 hours. I'll start there and see what happens. I'd say at this point the aquarium is kind of like broken in. I can find balance, but I just have to find where that balance needs to take place. Do I need to add less lighting, more lighting? Do I need to dose, CO2? What's it going to be? Typically when it comes to algae in a tank that doesn't have plants, a lot of the times algae's there for a reason. Too many nutrients, too much light. So incredibly simple to take care of, from performing massive water changes, eradicating those extra nutrients, and or lowering and or even eliminating the lighting period for a week or two until the algae is completely gone. But in a planted aquarium, we can't really do that because we wouldn't only eliminate the algae, we'd also potentially eliminate all the plants. But I will say, besides the Piranha aquarium, which is in dire trouble right now, every other planted tank I've ever done, including my rainbow aquarium where it was just moss and manzanita and about 200, 300 red rainbows, it went through something similar to this for around the first 3 months, and then really took off and was absolutely stunning. But I think that that's something that a lot of aquarists don't see. We always see the end result of somebody having the identical water parameters. They already know exactly what their lighting photo is going to have to be, the substrate they need, the plants they're going to use. The tank sizes are typically always the same. So a lot of the times, they're just kind of reinventing what they have already done. It's not broken, so why fix it? But in my case, every aquarium is so much different and so much bigger and or different sizes that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't for me. But it's always that break-in period. The Piranha aquarium kind of had one. When I initially set up the Piranha aquarium, we kind of ran into the same issues. Too much light, not enough nutrients, the plants couldn't compete with the algae, and algae kind of took over. It was going through that break-in period where there was an influx of nutrients and or light. Eventually, the plants took hold and wiped out the algae. The algae couldn't compete. The plants were getting enough nutrients, and the lighting was perfect. The tank kind of balanced itself out. But recently, the issue, we have two. One, hair algae is returning at a faster rate, and I'm assuming that's going to have to do with the lighting or the photo period. The plants really don't have much more places to go and or spread. They're competing with each other, and there's a tremendous amount here. But nutrients aren't that high because there's not enough snails in here. Remember when we had a snail infestation? All I did was simply starve them off. Simple cure for this hair algae, again in this case, is I'm going to lower my photo period, which has actually been 10 hours. I always thought it was 8 hours, but I looked at my timer. Oh, there's a tetra back there. Still have some tetras in here. One right there too. And back there. See him way back in the little corner there? But we've cut it down to 8 hours. This is day one of that. The next thing I got to do is manually siphon out all the hair algae. A relatively big water change, and see what that does for the return of the hair algae. The hair algae is not what I'm concerned about. What I'm most concerned about is, of course, the soil. It's a humate soil, aqua soil, that typically only lasts for about a year, and you need to replace it. I'm not replacing this. I can't rip up every one of these plants with 30 red belly piranha in there and then safely plant it all back in. It's being incredibly impractical. And or move out all the piranhas to do that. I'm just simply going to ride this one out and see what happens, because that soil's on year 2, going into year 3. I think what I might do is when we start seeing a die-off in the plants over the next 6 months or so, I might just save all the plants, transfer them to new aquariums, and simply completely and totally rescape this aquarium. How I would do that, I have absolutely no idea, but it certainly would have to top this scape. The biggest issue is this tank is 5 feet front to back. A lot of people don't realize just how big this tank is. But it's really big. Like really, really big. 8 feet long, 5 feet front to back, and 28 inches tall. Even standing on a chair, or even if I got up level with it, the furthest back I could go is probably about 2.5 feet. That's why I chose to go with Cryptocorin. All those big bushy plants in the background are all different types of Cryptocorin. The ones in the front are dwarf sedge. They have one thing in common. In order to self-propagate, we don't need to trim them or anything like that. They send off runners. One plant, a mother plant, will send off another runner and another runner and another runner until it kind of fills out the tank. But they definitely are running out of space. I think that the nutrient requirement for this is too high and the lighting period is too high. It's probably something simple, but the reason I'm making this video is to get your thoughts on it. What did we do here? You're going to look at this and think, this aquarium is beautiful. And it absolutely is. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, remove a little bit of the hair algae. I am seeing it come back faster and faster. Usually it takes 3 months or so before I see any amount of hair algae, so that I feel like, oh, well, I guess I should take that out. But I just did this a month ago. It's coming back 3 times as fast. I'll start with adjusting the photo period, see what happens there, but if I notice any discoloration and or plants melting or dying off, we're going to have to come up and think of things immediately. I'm definitely just getting ahead of this because I know that if I just hit you with a video in 6 months and I'm tearing this tank apart and being like, oh yeah, all the plants died and there was a bunch of algae and I couldn't da-da-da-da-da, I don't want it to be a shock. I just know what's going to happen. I've seen this before. I could lower the stocking. I could feed more. If I lower the stocking, nutrient levels drop. If that's the issue, if nutrient levels aren't high enough, I could feed more. What if we see a noticeable drop in the quality of the plants? Do we start dosing the tank? We have to think of realistic options on how to save this aquarium because, well, after 2 years, we got twice as much out of this tank as I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get a year of a really nice tank. 2 years has been a blessing to have. And it's really upsetting me because I got control of the snails. The piranha are doing absolutely gorgeous. The tank is just beautiful, but I'm seeing signs of this tank potentially crashing at some point, which is, of course, the influx of this hair algae everywhere. I'll start with the photo period. I'll come back to you guys in about a month or so, but I'd love some suggestions in the comment section below. Maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe I'm not thinking of something. CO2 I'm not going to inject. I think we still have to worry. These guys are only half grown. And at these guys full grown, I highly doubt this is going to exist. The tank is big enough. But I don't know. If we did a hardscape though, or a rescape, it would just be hardscape, rocks, branches, sand. I do like a brownish beige sand. I'd lower the lighting to the point where it's dramatic and glittery, like shimmering with LEDs. I make it sound like I'm excited to do that instead of this, but I think that you should try to keep a positive outlook. Anyways, let me know what you think of the beginning of the end of the piranha aquarium, because I'm not looking forward to it, but the longer I sit here looking at it, I'm seeing more and more hair algae. I'm just going to siphon it out and replace the water. Maybe I'll do a giant water change, 50%, and we'll go from there. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. By the time this video comes out, a month will have passed. I'll post my update to Instagram. Probably my story, or I'll make a reel. So if you're not following me on there, make sure you are so you don't miss that. Or maybe I could do a follow-up video, but I'm almost about a month ahead in videos right now because I'm working on something really, 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 really big, and I need my time, so I'm trying to get you guys as many videos as I can. If you haven't noticed, for the past month or two, 2 months, I've been putting out 3 to 4 videos a week. I'm loving it. Hope you guys are. See you in the next one.